guys, welcome back to my channel. So, this is going to be kind of a reading vlog, but I haven't really vlogged any of the beginning of January, so I think this is just going to be a reading update because I'm probably going to talk too much in this clip to really be able to add in like a secondary clip later on in the week with an update. So instead, this is just going to wrap up like what I've read up to this point. I don't really do wrap-ups anymore, but my reading vlogs kind of are those, just in live time. But I didn't really read much at the very beginning of January, and I'm still actually going very, very slowly with my pacing as far as reading goes. Normally, I'm just like chugging out a book a day at this point, and I've kind of stepped back, and I'm just kind of enjoying not reading every spare second of every day, and it's been wonderful, and it's making me really appreciate the stuff that I am reading. So, let's start with the books that I've read up to this point. I've got like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 to talk to you guys about. So I started the year off right by finally reading The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. I don't know how to say his last name. This is a book that came out last year, 2 years ago, and everybody that I know has read it, and it's just kind of become an instant classic childhood story. But I just never got around to reading it, and I decided to start the year off with a book that I knew I was going to fall in love with, and sure enough, 5 stars. It was beautiful, but it basically was just a very simple, like, children's story of, like, a boy who meets all of these animals and they all teach him lessons about life. I basically have never experienced the complexities of life simplified so well. Like, it had all of the emotions. I didn't expect to cry from a book that's, like, 5 pages long, but, like, it hits you in all of the nostalgic morality feels, and it was so good. And it's definitely going to be a book that I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up from time to time because I feel like at different points of your life you're going to take different things away from it. Masterpiece. Okay, the next book that I got to is called Wintering by Catherine May, and this is a nonfiction book that I listened to that I'm really glad I listened to in January, kind of going into like the dregs of wintertime, because this book kind of really focuses on what wintering means, like going into a rest season, whether that is psychological, whether that is natural, like the actual season of winter, or whether that is just like a mental state that you need to take a break from normal life and like slow down. And it really, really helped my mentality about winter. So I live in Pennsylvania. I experience all 4 seasons throughout the year, which is a really cool thing. But as I've gotten older, wintertime has just gotten more and more stressful. Like, it has just gone further and further down my liked list of things in life. There's a whole list of reasons for why I dislike winter, and it's all just personal preference really, but essentially it all starts when you get your license and you start driving, because I feel like wintertime is a very stressful time when you have to drive places because it's dangerous, especially in the area that I live in. The roads are not treated very well. They're very steep, they're very curvy. There's a lot of accidents that happen every single winter, so it's just a big stressor for me because you have to wake up earlier for work, you have to clean your car off, you have to shovel your driveway. It's just a lot of inconvenience type stuff on top of like fear of driving. And also I feel like snow and the cold just kind of really put a hindrance on like your vitamin D levels, and seasonal affective disorder is a very real thing. I'm not claiming that I have it, but it affects a lot of people, and I definitely get very slumpy by March because I feel like you go into the holiday season and you're like, yay, winter, and January's like, yeah, it's winter. February's rough. February is when we generally get the worst weather, and it's usually a lot of like sleet and snow, and it's a stressful month. It's dark. And by March, you're like, all right, I'm done with this. And it's like, no, we're gonna have a whole bunch of snow coming your way straight through till April. So I'm of the mentality where wintertime is just exhausting to me. There's not enough daylight. I feel like when I work during the day, I leave when it's dark out, I come home when it's dark out, and I miss the entire day. Or when it starts getting dark out, I'm like, oh, I guess it's time for bed. What? It's only 4:30. Like, we haven't even eaten dinner yet. And it's very hard to like feel motivated when like the outside world is shutting down. And as somebody who has a farm, I have to go outside. Like, there isn't an option to just like hunker down inside and like wait out a storm. No, I have to go like make sure water buckets aren't frozen, and I have to like shovel out barns and make sure that I can get hay delivered. And there's just a lot of factors this is just 5 minutes of me complaining about winter, isn't it? It is. Moral of the story, this book kind of changed my perspective. Not entirely, but it helped me see things because it basically talked about embracing that period of life. And embracing like the darker times of life. Whether that is actual sunlight that is not present for most of our days during the wintertime, or if that is mental, like if you're going through a really dark, depressive period of your life, to embrace that. Because I feel like our society as a whole only really touts about the achievements and all of the accomplishments that you're doing and all the things that you're getting done. It doesn't really promote the fact that we need rest. And this book kind of encompasses the idea of just rest time, hibernation, not specifically us hibernating as humans, but like needing to sleep more, needing to like take care of yourself, whether that is physically or mentally or emotionally, having to accept that you need to have down times and it can't all just be ups. Like life is the roller coaster. We can't focus on the ups. It's really embracing like the low valleys that we have in our lives. And I really liked the perspective that it gave me. Did it make me feel better about living in Pennsylvania in the winter? Not really, but it made me feel justified in knowing like how different cultures view these periods of our lives. Like people who live in Norway, you have to embrace wintertime in order to live there because you legitimately get snowed in and you are really just forced to slow down. Makes me want to live in Norway because I would love to live in an environment that like caters to cold weather and embraces the fact that you need to take time off of work and constantly going and going and going. And it was nice. Okay, I've been talking way too long about that. Wow. Okay, for the next book, we're going more upbeat. This was recommended to me by my friend. We've been recommending romance books back and forth to each other because we have very different taste in romance. So it's been broadening my horizons, which is wonderful. And I read Frenemies by Emma Hart, and this was so cute. This is exactly the type of just like quick, fun, contemporary romance that like sometimes you just need as a palate cleanser. This was exactly that. This is about essentially like a second chance romance. It's about a girl who her ex-fling moved in next door and she is still just super jaded over the fact that they like drifted apart and he ghosted her and he was a jerk to her after their like college hookup. And it's them rekindling their romance. But the best part of this book is her grandmother and their book club. Like, the romance aside, that was fine. It was great. 3-star romance. The grandmother and the side characters of this book, 5 stars. Loved them. So her grandmother has no filter and is just hilarious and is very obviously trying to have her granddaughter get some, and it's hilarious. And her book club essentially is just a book club that they all read really intense erotica books and discuss them. And it's hilarious. Like, they all bought copies of 50 Shades of Grey that had, like, historical covers on them off of eBay to read as a group, and they all just discuss their sexual preferences, and it's hilarious. So that alone made the book worth reading. So thank you, Kim, for that recommendation, because that was a great palate cleanser. Just in time for me to jump back into a real heavy book. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I feel like a lot of people have been reading this. This came out, I want to say, in October. And this is rough. In case you guys haven't heard the synopsis of this, it basically follows Nora, who is our protagonist, who, trigger warning for this book, commits suicide. And it's her story as she kind of goes to this library, which acts as like a limbo type of place for her, where she basically gets to relive her life with all of the different things that would have changed if she made different choices. It's kind of that whole concept of like the butterfly effect, or regrets versus not having regrets. So basically she gets to like open up a book, jump into that story, and it's her life if she had made this choice or this choice. So she gets to experience so many different things and so many different lives. And it's kind of a story of like acceptance of like who you are as you are right in the moment and embracing that, rather than wondering what ifs and not being satisfied with life just because there's so many other things that you could be doing. And it was heavy, but it didn't feel heavy. Like, it touches on so many really heavy and dark concepts, but in a very light way. And it makes you just really think without realizing that you're like really thinking about life and its complexities and all of the bad things and the good things. It was a really cool, thought-provoking book. I don't think it was amazing, but it's one of the stories that I'm really glad that I read it when everybody else was reading it, so I could like appreciate all of the things that were in it. I gave it 4 stars. I highly recommend it because it's fairly short, but it accomplishes a lot in a very simple story. I recommend it. Okay, let's get to the meat and the potatoes of this video. I finally read The Secret History. Round of applause for Chelsea. I did it. Finally. This was on my goals to read last year and I never got around to it. I actually started it last year and my hold expired and I was very bitter over that. Then I got a physical copy of it finally so I could keep going, and also my audiobook hold came back in, which really helped me with this whole process of reading this chunker of a book. So this is a book that I have always wanted to read. I don't want to say I've been intimidated by it just because I read a lot of stuff like this that is not super scary to me, but I've had this on very high esteem in my mind because I adore dark academia, and this is like the book that's on the pedestal of dark academia. When you like look for recommendations, this is the only book that will come up on every single list. So I had this up there in my mind. I had high expectations for this. And I also read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt years ago, and I loved it. So I was nervous because I always hear that you either like The Goldfinch or The Secret History. Like, they're two very different types of stories, and usually you prefer one over the other. I liked both of them. Am I one of the weird enigmas? Probably. So like I was saying, this is the pinnacle of dark academia, and I am just really enjoying that little subgenre so much recently. It's one of my favorite things to read from, but it's a very limited selection. There are not many stories out similar to this vibe. So I figured I would kick the year off with the book at the top of the list, and I finally got into this. So, dark academia is basically kind of like a story type. It's not really a genre. It's basically a story set in an academic setting that follows usually a cast of characters around something dark. Something nefarious happens that basically starts to break down the cast of characters and this like very pretentious setting gets into like the underbellies of like human emotions and human psychology, and it's usually like a really good descent into madness, and it's fantastic. I adore it. So this basically fits that mold to a T. So we're following a cast of students who are all in this very prestigious Greek program with this one professor who only takes on these 5 students and works with them basically through their entire college career. And it's following our protagonist, Richard, who gets like accepted into this group of these elite 4 students who are all very close-knit and are all very wealthy and very pretentious people, and he feels somewhat like an outsider, but he does get like absorbed into this like family dynamic that they have. Some bad shit happens. I mean, this book has been out for a while. A murder happens of one of these students, and it's basically just watching all of these members of this group just kind of like crumble into like evil, and it was great. I don't know what it is. I love the setting of like academic school, like very prestigious private academy type things, and really getting into like the nitty and gritty of the people who are in these very prestigious situations and just like destroying them. I think that might just be the really dark evil part of me, which is represented well in these books. But I just love watching very pretentious, very highbrow people fall from grace and just like everything gets destroyed and like all of their friend groups just start to like implode and bad stuff happens. I love it. I eat it up. So this book is like almost 600 pages of that, and it was glorious, and it left me thinking about it for like 2 days after reading it. I couldn't stop thinking about these characters and everything they went through. I adored it. I loved it a lot. 5 stars. I understand why it's like top tier dark academia. I get it now. Okay, and moving on to what I'm currently reading, and both of these I'm in the middle of, so I can't give you final thoughts, but I just wanted to let you know where I am. My book club started A Good Girl's Guide to Murder yesterday. As I'm filming this, you're probably seeing it way later than that. We have likely already finished it by now. But hopefully in the next reading vlog, you'll be able to hear final thoughts on this. Initial thoughts, though, after reading just one section of this, I am loving it. I am not really reading YA almost at all anymore, so I was kind of nervous going into this. But the formatting of this book is so good. It's following a girl who's in her senior year, and she's basically working on like a senior thesis kind of project, and she's just trying to investigate a murder that happened in their town 5 years ago, and she's trying to solve it because it was solved, but like not really. And the formatting is really cool because it's a lot of like interview style stuff. It's not exactly mixed media, but it's definitely like dialogue of like conversations and stuff like that, and it's paced really, really well. It's like scratching the itch that like true crime podcasts give me. Even though this is fiction, it's not real, it feels like they're unraveling like a true crime story. I listen to a lot of true crime stuff, okay? And it feels very much like the unfolding of a podcast of a story. So I'm digging that. The like true crime junkie in me is loving this. So I'm reading that currently, and I also started the audiobook of The Blacksmith Queen by J.A. Ankin. This is a book that one of you sent to me, which I'm very excited over because it is exactly my type of book. Like, you guys know me really well. This is what I'm going to coin as cozy fantasy, which is a thing that I don't know if it exists, but I'm calling this that. It's fantasy, but it's very, like, lighthearted. It's very funny. It's like comedy fantasy, romance. I don't know how else to describe it. It's fantasy, it's high fantasy that does not take itself too seriously, and the dialogue is hilarious. There's so much swearing, there's so much vulgarity, and it's just so good. Our main character, Keely, she reminds me a lot of the main chick from The Mandalorian. I forget her name right now, but she is repeatedly described as being extremely muscular, extremely strong, really big and powerful. And that's just how she is. It's the first time that I'm seeing, like, a strong female lead being a legitimate, like, muscular, bodybuilding blacksmith woman, and I love it. I love it so much. So, it's that. It's not taking itself too seriously. I'm adoring it so far. So, I will let you guys know final thoughts in the next reading vlog that I do. But those are the 2 books that I'm currently working on. But that is going to be it for this reading update. It's kind of a reading vlog minus the vlog part. It's just an update. Hope that's cool with you guys. But that's what I've been reading so far. I'm taking it slow. Normally at this point of the month, it's January 19th. Normally by now I've probably read like 15 books. I've read like 7, and it feels good to like be able to enjoy things at a slower pace. So that's my goal this year, is to really absorb things. And that's how it's going. So that's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys have been reading in the beginning of this year so far, and I'll see you guys in my next video.